Have you ever thought it'd be useful to be able to track your time and then be able to show that time, show a filtered list of that time, I should say, to different individual people? Now, look, maybe you are working on a project and you'd like, or work on a range of projects and you'd like to show a filtered list of just one particular project's information to your project sponsor. Or perhaps you have a series of clients on different retainers. You're working on different tasks and different schedules for different people, and you would like to be able to roll up all that time so that different clients can see how much time you've spent on their particular tasks in any given month. Or perhaps you are a not-for-profit and you guys are working on a bunch of different objectives and a bunch of different projects, and you'd like to be able to filter some of that information so that you could share with your donors or sponsors where you guys are up to on some of those different projects or objectives. Either way, I'd like to show you how you can track your time using a tool like Toggl and go through and show all that time inside of a databasing tool like Airtable, so that it's really easy for you to share filtered lists of time entries to different individual people. But more importantly, I'd also like to show you how you can connect those two tools together using Zapier so that the entire process is really seamless and completely automated, and that you just need to focus therefore on doing the work and tracking your time, and the rest of it all just happens automatically. So look, I hope that is something which you find useful. But look, my name's Keelan. I'm from Regional Business Toolkit, and I really love helping businesses and organizations use digital tools to be able to grow their impact and their efficiency. So look, without any further ado, let's do a bit of a deep dive into the tools which we're looking at today. So the first tool we'd like to have a look at today is Toggl. Now Toggl has just gone and changed its name in the last week or so to Toggl Track because they've added a series of other tools as well. So if I happen to refer to it as Toggl or Toggl Track, please don't worry, we're talking about the same tool here. Now if you haven't used Toggl before, or if you haven't used some other kind of time tracking tool like this, you'll find it pretty easy and fairly intuitive to use. So all we're going to do here is inside the timer function inside of Toggl, we're going to build a duck feeder as a particular task, just a random task. This is a sample workspace that I have inside of Toggl. We're going to go through and assign this particular task to a client. In this case, I'm going to call it client A. And there's a project inside here called Duck Nursery. Now, if you happen to use Toggl and you happen to use tags, we'll cover that a little bit later on in the video. But for all intents and purposes now, all you need to do is track your time, in this case using Toggl. Now, Toggl also has a great phone app and a great desktop app if you need to use it in those kind of formats. But in short, it's a simple process of just turning the timer on, giving a particular task a name, doing the work, and then once you're finished, coming back through and stopping that particular task. So we'll stop this time entry now at 25 or so seconds. So Toggl you'll find fairly easy to use. But let's go across from Toggl into the second tool, which will be where we're going to be taking all of these time entries and showing them. And that tool is Airtable. Now look, if you haven't used Airtable, Airtable is a fantastic online databasing tool. And for this particular workflow we're using here today, oops, Toggl's asking me to track my time. Inside this particular workflow here today, you can absolutely get away with the free version of Airtable. In fact, you can get away with the free version of Toggl and of Zapier as well in this particular workflow. So over here inside of Airtable, I've created a base called RBT test log, and we're creating a database inside here called task log. You could change this name if you wanted to whatever you want, but this particular one is called task log, and this particular view is just called log as well. But more importantly, we only at the moment have four different, oops, we don't even need that, four different fields or columns inside of Airtable. We've got a single view here, or sorry, a single line text I should say, called client. We've got a date column called date. I happen to use a day before month before year format, but if you need to use a different one, then that's okay as well. We have a single line text field called task. And we have a duration field over here, which just uses the standard hour and minute format. You can go through and add other columns here as well if you like, but right now we're only going to be pulling these particular four fields across from Airtable. So as you can see here, I've got a little bit of sample data in here. It says client A did some work for those guys on the 14th. It was called Locate the Elephant and it took 130 minutes. Client B did some work on the 15th. Client A did some work on the 16th. Client C did some work on the 17th. Obviously, that will be completely specific to you and your particular workflow as to what data ends up coming across here. But just so you know, that's just a little bit of sample data here. So after you've got a particular base set up inside of Airtable that's going to receive all the information, the next step is for us to go through and connect that together using Zapier. As I mentioned before, you can absolutely use the free version of Zapier for this, but let's go across to Zapier and have a look at how we can piece this together. So here we are inside of Zapier, and all we're going to do is come across here and click Make a Zap. So we're going to make a brand new automation or brand new workflow inside of Zapier. Now, first thing to do, give it a name. So I'm going to call this Toggl Track to Airtable Test. You can call it whatever you like. The very first thing we're going to do is inside of Zapier, we need to choose the trigger event. So the trigger event is the thing that will start this entire workflow happening, and that's going to be that something happens inside of Toggl, and that something is going to be that a new time entry is created. Now we have a series of other options here inside of Zapier. A new time entry could be started, new projects created, new clients created, new tasks created, etc. But we're going to create one when a new time entry is created. And just go and click Continue. We need to now map a particular Toggl account here. We can go through and click Add New Account. If you haven't got Toggl already connected, and what this will ask, it'll turn around here and ask us for an API key. If we just come back across here to Toggl and come down to your profile settings, scroll down a little bit, you can pick up your API token over here. So an API token will just allow you to be able to connect different tools together. Great. Where are we? Whoops, Airtable. So we're just going to hit Continue. We now need to choose the workspace. So inside of Toggl, at the moment, we only have one workspace inside this test account. You might have more, but if you just click Choose Entry, it will give you the option of any workspaces you have. And then it will also ask you whether or not you would like to only trigger entries if they meet other criteria. And this could be only trigger entries with a particular task name or a particular tag name. We'll talk about tags a little bit later on. I personally use tags a fair bit inside of Toggl, but it's not necessary for today. And then Zapier will just ask you to test the trigger. It will basically use that information, go back into Toggl and try and pull some information out of Toggl. So here it's pulled a whole bunch of information here, but in essence it was an entry that said prepare the duck pond. Now let's just come back across here to Toggl and just double check that one of the entries, in fact the last entry here, was called prepare the duck pond, client A, and was 50 minutes in duration. So yes, we're seeing that it's able to collect the right kind of information from Toggl for us. Second thing we're going to do is connect together Airtable. So in essence, this is the recipe here. When a new time entry is made inside of Toggl, do this, and the this thing will be connect to Airtable, and we're going to, again, we've got some options here. We're going to create a new record inside of Airtable. So in essence, we want to create a new line inside of this particular table. Zapier will ask us to go through and select which account we'd like to use. I'm going to use my Airtable connection. It's easy for you to come through and click Add New Account. It will again ask for an API. You can quite easily get your API by clicking on your account settings up here in the top corner. But we already have an account set up. We'll hit Continue. So the base that we want to use will be RBT test log. So that was the name of this particular base up here. And the table we want to use is going to be the task log. And that's the name of this particular, that's the name of this particular table over here. Now, I know some people sometimes find this next little step here a little bit daunting. It's actually really, really easy, but we just need to map together the fields in the information that we're pulling from Toggl with the fields we have over here inside of Airtable. So to do this, as you can see, inside of this particular table, we have the name of 4 different columns, and they are literally just these 4 columns here. So inside a client, we just need to know what information we want to put inside of this particular column or this particular field, and it's going to be the name of the client. We'd like to pick the date, and the date will be easy. We're going to pick the start date for this item. You could use the end date if you wanted, but logically start date works for me. And then we're going to choose the name of the task. So here we have a description, and that description is prepare, in this case, prepare the duck pond, and the duration is going to be the duration in terms of readable time. So let's have a quick look at that. In a moment, what we're hoping to see is inside of Airtable, we're hoping that the inside of here, we're going to get client A, we're going to get a start date, which will be, in this case, the 20th of September. It'll convert that date for us. The description is going to be prepare the duck pond, and it's going to be 50 minutes. So we'd really like to see client A, date, prepare the duck pond, and 50 minutes. All we're going to do is hit continue, and Zapier will turn around and ask us if we would like to test this particular zap before it continues, and we absolutely want to do that. So what it'll do is it will take that information and it will try and send it through to Airtable, and if we come back across to Airtable, hopefully what we see now is client A, the date, prepare the duck pond, and that time of 50 minutes, so we know it's working fine. After that, we just click turn on Zap. Now look, I will actually share a copy of this Zap with you, although as you can see, this particular Zap is fairly easy to set up, and you should be absolutely fine just by following the instructions we've done just now. So that's all you need to do to set up this entire process. Let me just step through again really quickly. If you're doing a project, if you have retainers, if you're not-for-profit working on some bigger objectives or bigger projects and things like that, all you need to do is go through now and track your time. Put in more entries here, add them to the correct kind of clients, and then just track your time. The moment that the time entry is finished and appears in your list of tasks, what will happen is Zapier, every 15 minutes, we'll go through and look for a particular, look for any new entries over here inside of Toggl, and it will go through and copy those across to Airtable for you. So ultimately, you might have up to a 15-minute lag, but ultimately any entries you make inside of Toggl will arrive over here inside of Airtable. Now, the reason we've gone through this entire path here, and one of the things I mentioned at the start of this video, is that we would actually like to show a filtered list of tasks to individual clients or sponsors or donors or other people like that. And I want to show you how you can set that up inside of Airtable. It's actually really quite easy. We have this total log of time here. As you continue adding more tasks to Toggl, you'll find this log will go, a dozen items, hundreds of items, or even thousands of items, depending on how much time tracking you end up using. We're going to go through and we're going to duplicate this view. So we now just have something called log copy, and I'm going to change this name from being log copy to being client A log. Oops, move that out of the way. So we have a view here called client A log, and it's really easy for us to go through now, hit filter, add a filter, and we're going to filter where the client contains client A. So where this column contains the word client A. Now it'll always have the name client A because it always has the particular, unless you're changing the name of the client over here, it will always be called, the information in Toggl will always be called client A, and you're always going to have a list of information over here called client A. So what we can see here, inside this view, we have some information from the 14th, the 16th, and the 20th, and we have a list of particular tasks and their total duration. Down the bottom of the page here, we have a total duration of 209 minutes and 25 seconds. So over here we have our main total list, and here we have just a filtered list. So this is obviously the kind of information you could be giving out to sponsors or to donors or to clients as well. And it's really easy for us to go through and click Share View and create a shareable view of this particular information. In fact, we're just given that particular link here. What I'll do here is I'll just open up an incognito window. I'll paste that in. And if we go through and have a look at that, we're now seeing the information that a client would see without ever having to have a login to your particular Airtable account. You can literally share this in an email. You could share this you could give a particular client or a particular project sponsor this particular link here, and at any point in time they can come across, use that link, come through here and see a current up to within the last 15 minutes list of updated list of information that is feeding directly from your Toggl account. Now look, you could do a few other things with this process as well. You could go through and group this information by date. You could go through and group this information by month if you wanted to. You can go through and roll this up by a range of other things as well. I did mention earlier on that I happen to use tags a fair bit inside of my Toggl account. So you could also pull the tag information across and go through and group or sort this information by tags as well. So for me in particular, sometimes I work with a particular client and have some retainer work and have individual project work as well, and they'd like to be able to see those two bits of information quite separately. So we can filter that information here inside of Airtable really quite easily. We can also go through and embed that view which we had just then inside of something like ClickUp. If you're using ClickUp for project management, I happen to use Notion to create a bunch of client dashboards, and I can just go through and embed that view inside of Notion, or you can even go through and embed that view inside of a website if you like as well, especially if you are doing bigger work and there is lots of different project sponsors or donors who might be wanting to look at some of that. Then you can create individual project pages inside of your website so people can always see an up-to-date list of where you guys are up to on a particular project. So overall, I really hope that helps. As I said at the outset, this is a great ability for you to be able to track your time using a tool like Toggl and be able to automate that process so that any of your time entries inside of Toggl are automatically coming across and arriving inside of Airtable, and then always being filtered into individual views so that you can give that particular view, a filtered view of information out to clients, project sponsors, donors, and all sorts of other people, all sorts of other individuals like that as well. So I really hope you find that really, really helpful. If you have any questions about the process, or if you've got any variations on this that you're using and you'd like to share, please don't hesitate to let me know in the comments below. Other than that, if you like this video, please don't hesitate to hit the subscribe button so you can get notified when there are more videos like this along the way. Apart from that, hope you are well, stay safe at the moment, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next video. Cheerio.